Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee, I'll be very brief. Having looked at the legislation, it seems that the focus is pretty narrow. And normally when people gather and talk about the death penalty, people from both sides have very strong feelings. But I don't think that's required today. And whatever side of the death penalty you find yourself on, I think both sides agree on this. The purpose of the death penalty has never been to kill innocent people. Nobody wants that to happen. I have been a trial lawyer, civil trial lawyer, so I tried many cases in front of juries who are pretty smart people. I was the Chief Justice of our state and a member of our court for 15 years. I reviewed a lot of appeals. And then I was Dean of our law school. So I don't think there's anyone coming before you today has greater reverence for the legal system than I do. Having said that, I cannot say to you, nor would you accept if I did, that the system is perfect. It's not. And I cannot imagine being innocent of a capital crime, and we know there are innocent people who have been released from prison, not because of some technicality or some slick word, because they were wrongly convicted and are indeed innocent. Talk to someone strapped to a gurney who's about to have a lethal cocktail injected into their system, and explain to them why the death penalty is appropriate when they didn't do the crime. Nobody in America on either side of the death penalty debate would countenance that for 1 second. We now have DNA testing, and it's exonerating. We have put to death in the United States innocent people. No one finds that acceptable. And while the legislation here today is not perfect, it's a huge step forward. And the only mistake we can make is to forget the point, which is, do we want innocent people to be executed in America? The answer is no. And so I commend it to you. And I recommend its passage, and I hope you will pass it. And you can do that without changing your views on the death penalty. Nobody wants to take an innocent life. Nobody does want to do that. No one can justify it. And the only way someone can justify it is to say that as long as we kill mostly guilty people, it's okay if an innocent person gets in the way. That's not who we are as Americans. And for someone who loves the justice system in this country and knows it's the best on the planet Earth, it is not perfect. So I commend the legislation and hope you will pass it.
Thank you very much for your testimony this afternoon, Judge. Are there any questions from the committee? Senator Lasky.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. Afternoon. Have you got the bill? You don't have the bill.
I don't have all the money I've got.
Thank you. Line 4. Place that which is are hereby suspended and shall not be enforced until such time that methods exist to ensure that the death penalty cannot be imposed on an innocent person. Rather unique language. Do you agree with me?
It is, and not to make false promises. There are people, this was alluded to earlier, who in front of upright, intelligent jurors who took an oath and kept it, in front of really excellent judges and in the presence of really excellent lawyers, and with everyone testifying, believe they are telling the truth, have convicted innocent people. Eyewitness testimony is not perfect testimony. It's just not. In connection with that, I'm going to make a recommendation. I usually don't make book recommendations, but I'm going to do it now. It's a book called Devil in the Grove. And it's about the life of Thurgood Marshall before everyone knew him. It's about trials he's just been in Florida and Oklahoma in the late 1940s, where at that time, in those cases, African Americans were the defendants and charged with capital murder and were convicted on testimony that would embarrass the hardest heart. People of goodwill and good character make mistakes. So to the extent you can make DNA available and that is dispositive, that's wonderful. But as someone said, not every murder has DNA available. And so this is an advance. It's not perfect, but I recommend it because I think it moves the discussion forward. And I think New Hampshire would be taking a sensible position to take a breath and take a look. That's all. And because we have not executed anyone in New Hampshire, to my knowledge, since the late 1930s, we're not like Texas. But innocent people are also on death row in Texas. We need to be smarter about it. You know, I was an appellate judge, as I said, for 15 years, and virtually every case I sat on, we could serve as the eraser at the end of the pencil. When you remove the eraser at the end of the pencil, it's a problem. It's a problem. And so I think we need to deal with it. I hope this passes, not because it solves every problem, but it solves some.
Are there any further questions? Judge, I have a question. In reading this piece of legislation, does this prevent someone from getting the death penalty?
Does this prevent them
Yes.
from receiving the penalty?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so.
So I'm just going to follow up with a series of questions. So someone can go through the legal process, go to trial, and be found guilty of offense, and be given a sentence of capital punishment. But what now happens to that person? Because it seems like they're in a state of limbo. They're going to be incarcerated, and they have this death penalty sentence hanging over their head, which is suspended, but can be enacted at any time. Now, as a lawyer and as a judge, you know that once someone gets a death penalty, there's a whole series of appeals that kicks in. So do you see this appeals process kicking in when the person has been convicted and sentenced, given a death penalty sentence, or do you see that appeal process kicking in once the suspension is lifted and now they are going to receive the death penalty?
A simple answer to your questions, I don't know. I haven't studied it.
Okay.
And one of the things I did as a judge is I studied it. I'm not a compendium of knowledge. I don't know whether the intent of this legislation as written is to say all capital murder prosecutions cannot go forward, or whether executions can't go forward until we're satisfied there's a sufficient meaning. So I don't know the answer to your question. But as I read it, it doesn't prevent capital murder prosecutions from occurring. And if the state wanted to deal with the issue in totality, if they wanted to deal with the issue in totality, they would deal with the issue in totality. And they would decide, enough. I mean, we all know that capital murder prosecutions are multiple times more expensive. Executions are not prompt. And executions are never certain. I am an opponent, personally, of the death penalty. Not because I don't understand those who favor it, but because I know it's not certain. And when you exact the ultimate penalty, you need to know it's right. Seems to me to do. I think any civilized society would say, if you're gonna take someone's life, you better be dead certain that that's the person. I think there's a witness here today who followed me, who was incarcerated, was on death row, and was released from prison. That would trouble me a lot. It would trouble me a lot, and especially if someone was convicted based on eyewitness testimony. How do you ensure that that's ever accurate enough? You can't. You can't do that. I don't know if anyone here has spent any time in the state prison.
Sorry.
I don't mean as a convict.
I
I mean
know.
visiting an inmate that's in state prison.
Never tell.
You have no idea the numbing feeling of that place. The numbing feeling of that place. For a lifetime. I just think, Senator, that if this were going to be done globally to eradicate the concern, it would be done globally to eradicate the concern.
Thank you very much. Senator Capano.
Can I have a follow-up to your question? One of the things that the bill does say that, we paraphrase to the place of execution, witnesses of the execution are hereby suspended and shall not be enforced until such time that methods exist, DNA, to ensure that the death penalty cannot be imposed on an innocent person. Next paragraph, next sentence. This section shall not apply to any person convicted of capital murder prior to the effective date of this section. Which means somebody who's been convicted of murder now, who's in jail, is going to die. True? According to this last line.
I think that's true.
Are there any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, John.
Thank you very much.